Welcome to the channel, guys. This is Reliable Rudy. 4 minutes to the open, 4 minutes to go through the intro. Before we go into anything, you guys know I'm not a licensed financial advisor. Everything in this live stream and this video is me simply sharing my opinion, nothing more, nothing less. I'm just a guy. At the end of the day, I'm just doing what I love to do. Trying to show you guys what I'm looking for when I'm looking to trade and when I'm looking to invest. Two different things. That is very important information right there. Investing and trading is two completely different things. And I try to mix a little bit of both in. But at the end of the day, the trading does get a lot more of that movement plays, that flashy, that fun to watch type of plays. NVOS, great example from Friday, where I was sweating. I was about to get out of the position. We go hop over the NVOS, and it looks like we're gonna get a bit of continuation today, but really just sweating when it starts giving up this 34 and you start playing support. You just never know. You just never know if you're going to get that flush. We had a catalyst for a descending channel. If I end up holding it before I know it, it's down to 16, and you take a decent 10% hit to the bottom end of the channel. It's not an easy thing to do, but it was a flashy trade that we took at the end of the day, and now completely different scenario where we're looking for a breakout over top of these wick highs. So it's going to be really interesting to see that play out. But then you go over to the investing side, DVN. How long have we been talking about Devon? How long? We've been talking about oil for months. Months. Now it's what everybody wants to talk about. Now you name it, everyone's talking about oil. You think they're talking about oil down here? Man, we were preaching it every day, saying we like the value of oil, we like the earnings that we're seeing. They're buying back shares, they're increasing dividends, they're increasing production. There's news related stuff that we never really jumped into, where you're talking about supply cuts from Saudis. That's the news drop today. We don't really talk about the news ever. I just look at the earnings reports. I look at the industries that are putting up the money, returning money to investors. That's all we were doing. Well, you look at oil. We're breaking through top end of this channel. Next thing we got marked is 93s, which after that we're looking for some sort of retracement into this 702 up here, which is I don't know. Like I said, just a guy sharing my opinion. We'll go in through more of these title names here as we go into this open, but we're about to get an open here, and I do have an alert on Go EV. If that wants to sort of keep breaking higher over top of this red candle, I think is worth trying. But 1, 2 pullback candles, increased volume on this move up, one consolidation candle here, trying to hold an uptrend of some sort. So if it wants to hold support above this wick high up there today, it needs to pull back a little bit more. Okay, but we think this is a reasonable setup to maybe keep our eyes on. Soundtown continuing to hold 250s. You can see the sideways churn. We have an open. So let's see what's running for the day. Got a couple oil names up there, a few oil names up there. But Soundtown continuing to hold those 50s. TG, TX, let's take a look over there. Candle opens down. We do have our small position in this still, but still holding this uptrend. Not quite enough though. So let's see if this needs to pull back in the 50s. We can see if maybe it's worth a little bit of an add, or maybe it's just a cut. So we're gonna go keep an eye on this one off the open. But gapping below that downtrend, or the uptrend I meant, not what we wanted to see. But it's not the most volatile mover. We got a 6 penny spread. So this can easily get bought up. But if I was going to run a stop, I'm going to run a hard stop underneath these 1040s. If that really gives up the ghost, I could see maybe where there's an uptrend right there for those 50s, but I'm just not sure. So let's go back. NVOS kind of giving up the ghost a little bit, gapping up, but I'd expect pretty good buying pressure off these wick tops right there. DVN, beautiful move. I mean, this was one of the more premium oil names that You know, a lot of oil we talked about. It already filled this gap. It already tested up to these highs, and some of them were flirting in with these lows and these gaps. And DVN on a nice churn. We just played the uptrend on it, and they don't always work out that simple. But this one in particular didn't do half bad. And then of course Auto Home. This is a China online car sales. High margin, high free cash flow, a monster trend line, potential channel, but also a potential wedge with a secondary downtrend right here. So a couple different ways of looking at this one. I like the setup. It's just gonna need to hold this trend line. So we can set an alert for this gap. You know, honestly, we might even just put an order right for the gap. So this closes at 28.90. Let's go over and just put an alert right off that 28.90. Which it's there right now on the. So maybe if we wanted to, we could go down just a little bit more. We can look at this and see. There's your gap fill. You can maybe go 28.80s, but let's just add a little bit more size on these 28.90s. We were patient on this name last week. A red engulfing to the downside isn't the best look, but I think it's a still a reasonable setup, and maybe the 90s might be a little bit early, but if this comes back in even a little bit further, we can think about it. So let's see what the top movers are for the day now. TOO on a nice churn. Let's go take a look back at TGTX. This wasn't a title name, but I do want to keep an eye on this. And wicking into those 50s, so TGTX. We said that we would respect it if it got some buying pressure off 50s, but really early into the candle, I'm just going to take my time on this one because, I mean, the setup that I had originally, it's wicking in the 50s, but still below this trend line. We're just going to give it a little bit of time. Just a little bit of time. Let's get a refresh. We didn't have anything in particular, you know, off of the Labor Day Monday. Let's just kind of get a feel for what this market wants to do. But I would say oil is your strong play. If you wanted some continuation names, I'd say find an oil name. But NVAX testing this 860. So honestly, NVAX has been one that we've been extremely patient on, and we haven't really talked too much about it. Before we did have this channel or this trend line holding to the upside with this 805 gap, talked about it. Boom, right down to it. Hold, 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 and now breaking up higher. So if this was going to be something that was going to retrace, you can see that 702 is probably that area. So if we get some tests of 9 today, I think 9 is probably worth respecting. NVOS catching a bid. You can see as it came down to those flat tops right there, you can see it's wicking the buying pressure. Now we have a green candle there. Beautiful look, beautiful look. Soundhound still holding 250s. Let's go take a look back at TGTX. Holding a green candle, which if we look at the daily chart, you can see a little bit better view of why we like the name. But it's got 3 candle moves, 3 increased volume, and then it's just been trading sideways. So all we're looking for on this name, and it's giving you the frowny face look, double top type of wick candles up into that. But if it were to break 1080, we think we have a winning name here. So honestly, if it has to go against us, you know, we'll take a small hit. But we are going to keep this name on watch in case it eventually wants to curl up. We think that 1080 is that kind of line in the sand that this could really get going. But looking at a low float oil, INDO giving a nice gap up. I'm sure Hal was building his position down here. So Hal probably a little bit happy with that move today. I don't know how much size you would have had on it. ATHM coming back in, testing this uptrend. Are we going to be able to put orders in for 75s? 75 seems like a lot of action, a lot of wick action into that, and a lot of time left in the day. We can think about something there. NVOS, oh boy. So NVOS, a nice move right here, flirting with 25s and absolutely ripping. So let's actually go get a piece off of NVOS here. Even though it looks really good, we're just going to go take 1/14th off of the position, and let's just try and mark it. Nope, we're gonna wait for those 25s. Again, coming back in, but um, a decent start to the candle. I just missed that opportunity to maybe trim some, but a lot of time left in this candle, a lot of time for this to break out. Excuse me. And there's 25 halves. So let's see if this can get one more churn to the upside. We see 25 twos holding on the bid. Let's see if some buyers can keep trying to hold these 25s. Coming back in, rejecting those 25s. We can take a look at ASTS. You can see wicking all the way. I did not see it get all the way down into there. Uh, we have a good till cancel order off of the 80s. Just trying to play in front of this 75 gap. Oh, I didn't realize how close that was. That is a really good look to the start of the day. Uh, Obviously, it would still have to kind of push and extend higher, but if it were to get over top of these lows over here, call it a 410. So if this claims 4, you could be seeing a nice green candle come in on a break of 4 to get the bulls really involved on some extension over 410. So a nice move, notable move off of the open for ATSA. TGXA still holding that 1050. Let's actually just put an alert underneath that wick. We could stop it underneath this, like saying that if it gets underneath this price, but let's put an alert off that 1050. Looking at the top mover of the day, 7 million. Gaps up to the neckline, no buyers off that neckline support. I'd say give it some time. My humble opinion, I'd say give it time. MSOS, we have a downtrend that needs to be broken there still. MRO with a nice churn to the upside. You know, some of these oil plays we're going to need to eventually say, hey, when is enough time to take profit? And I'd say maybe first terms on MRO in those 28s. Just kind of marking out that gap and then marking out these lows with a couple wick tops and up in before 30. I'd say this could be a potential sell window, but after that we're going to be thinking flat top or maybe some sort of 702 type of retracement, which is 29 up to 30. So kind of in that range that we'd want to be trimming anyways. But NVOS, here we are. We haven't taken anything off of NVOS, but I think it's about time we go take our first print on NVOS, ring the register there. How about that move? NVAX catching a bid up to those 75s as well. We think NVAX, you know, holding that middle move, this green move right here, holding right in the middle. We've been extremely patient with the name, but now actually trying to push higher, which is a really good sign. I'd say end phase, I do think that this is territory for a long position, not a swing position. I'm thinking long position on this. It's been beaten down pretty heavily. You can see probably a clear sort of descending channel, and I'm sure it's probably going to have quite a bit of selling pressure off of the, but you can see it's deviating away from the bottom end, which you could say the bottom end is kind of right there. You mark that low. So you could say it's something like this and might have a little bit more room to go. But, you know, for people that are thinking about stopping this at 120, I think they're going to end up getting wicked out of this. And this is going to come into this monster support level in the teens, maybe even a little bit lower. But I would expect end phase to have some good buying pressure. And NVOS is still ripping to the upside. We're over 27s now. So let's go back over here. And let's get another 14th trim on the name. Let's see if we can push over these 50s right here. Let's go over to a 15-minute NVOS on an absolute pump. There's 50s. Seeing a couple 50s roll through the tape there. Coming back in, it's going to flirt down here with the 27s. But right back up, chipping away some 40s. Is this going to be a name that can take out these 50s and keep ripping to the upside? Looking to the left of the chart, we can see that these tops up here all kind of meet in around this 28 level. And then after that, you have a few tops in right here on 30. And then the start of the gap is really pretty much all that's left there, which is up to 36. So this could really get going today. I could have had a trim in those 27s. But we want to make sure we at least have some sort of piece of the position. If this wanted to rip through this gap and just absolute monstrous move, uh, 65 gap would be pretty significant there. ASTS holding, trying to chip into fours. See how it's red right there? We chipped into fours briefly there. DVN, kind of selling off just a wee bit, but I'd still say oil names are pretty strong. NVOS, you can see how it's curled back up. 580K of volume already on this first candle, which is pretty significant compared to what it was doing in this whole sideways chop action right here. You see how it's just a bunch of nothing. You have a little pop right here, but this kind of just gives you that first retest into those lows. So a really nice look right there. And getting over top of 60s we talked about last week as a potential breakout area. And you can see the volume. So if people were short in the middle of this consolidation right here, I would say 860 is a reasonable spot for that out. And now I'm not saying that just because shorts are exiting the position that it's going to rip. But this is a pretty good look, and we've been extremely patient on this NVOS position, so it's really exciting to see it start kind of panning out that way. We haven't got alerted on that Go EV, but we're not opposed of trying it. You can see it's holding this sort of trend line right here. Is it a perfectly set trend line? Probably not. But you can see where our alert's at. Just in front of this sort of neckline break, how it's tested these lows right here, gives the test. Does it double top into it, need the wedge a little bit? Maybe. But if it does give us that curl through that, the all-time high, or the high of this move, could be something that gives us a push up to the flat top at 80. So even if you were late and took it from here, I mean, still 15% is reasonable from our alert price. We'll go a little bit above it. From that alert price, 28%. So we think that there is some potential with it. XLE, churning days high, so I mean, we see no reason to trim any oil names, but NVOS back up here at these 2750s. Let's see if it can chip these away. And we had good size running up, got eaten up pretty quick there. So is it going to give us that move through these 27s? We only have one print on the name. You see NVAX holding that strength, and so is NVOS right here. So we have 15 seconds left. Let's see if this is going to be a continued green move or if it needs to just start pulling back 3 candles right off the rip. Either way, we're alright with it. NVAX trying to push up higher. Really nice move. So this one with that large green candle close might be one that needs to kind of pull back. But NVOS, I think, has the potential to push a little bit higher. It's already over top of those 25 highs. So, I mean, NVAX still has this resistance level. So I could see this being the pullback into 850 again. But a really nice move on NVOS, and we have no trims on it. We're going to see this play out. If it ends up giving up some sort of bull flag look and gives up 850s, maybe we can think of some outs. But then I'll probably be saying that the gap fill should get some decent buying. TGTX. There's your trend line, wicks into it, so it's at least showing me that, hey, there's a little bit of respect there, but now a nice green engulfing candle coming on in for the name. NVOS giving up the start of a red candle. Well, a lot of time left though, so maybe this does need to give us that 3 candle move to the downside. Our one print came in at 26, a little over 26, so yeah, it's on me that I was a little greedy for those 2750s. So could have been a little bit more aggressive. We only did a 1/14th trim, so could have been a little bit more aggressive going for it, but we like the setup for it. And we think that the longs have a little bit of that control factor in with this. Uh, ASTS, we think 410 is a reasonable push level. And ATHM, how about that? We're not on the bid here, but we did get a 2990 fill or 2890 fill. We're continuing to build that position up a little bit. And the reason why we're trying to build it up is just playing the trend line. We see no reason why we can't play this like it's a trend line. And what the heck happened to my huh? Well, we'll be able to adapt without those in. There we go. Yeah, both those in. End phase, notably up to these 130s. If this wants to break over top of 130, 150s, you know, it kind of gave that false wick last Friday. But oh boy, uh, Hinvax testing up towards these nines, and there we're blasting over top of, as of right now. And I'd say notable hold of the level is this Sound Hound. It has an indecision candle now trying to take out that high on a positive break on a 15, but you can see the candle on a daily chart that is, if this wanted to kind of take out this high, we think there's really good room up to that 292 gap. And Invax straight up to this 9. You know, I said we were going to respect 9, and I probably should here. I probably should. But we like the setup for the name, and we think that, you know, this could be the start of something that's a little bit bigger, where I'm sure you have some sort of moving average that's kind of like this. If I had to guess, as long as this is traded sideways, it's probably the 200 day. But maybe we're pushing the 200 day as we speak. You know, it's probably information that I should know, but I think it's a reasonable setup to say, hey, I think we can actually push that 200 day if it still hasn't yet. Geo, the notable move down in IAPR. Geo, probably worthy of a trim in front of those 720s or 750s. But given the look, if this can just trade sideways, we think that later on in the week we can eventually get that break right there. But a nice red candle coming on in. Does it need to pull back in to that 7 level again? If it does, I think it looks like a potential short, actually. You give the positive break. If it reclaims that negative and isn't able to catch a bid back up to that positive range, we think that this could actually be setting up. You know, you got the lower high confirmation. Didn't quite get up to those 750s either. EUDA, a nice churn. You can see the bull flag set up 1, 2, 3. Just a slow churn, pushing that high at 120. You know, with the nice move that this has had, I'd love to sit here and say, yeah, this is gonna push higher. But I think MSOS is gonna be worth first trims here in front of this. So let's just go ahead and get a piece of this name off. We're gonna take a 1/7, a little bit higher than what we normally would, but we're gonna take a 1/7 trim on the MSOS. We've been holding this for a long time. We've been very patient. You know, since April is when we really started playing it like a trend line. We held it against us and said, you know, it's not the most size. Let's see if we can pick up some more. And we did try a little bit more off that 5 flat, but not anything notable. Uh, I would say that this is just, you know, a little bit more luck than just, you know, just sticking true to the long sometimes is something that can work for you. Go EV. Go EV is giving you that first move. There's your trend line hold. There's your first neckline break, and now is it going to be able to reject, give us a curl, confirm a higher low, or maybe this wick top right here is where we can readjust that alert. So a couple different ways of looking at this Go EV as a potential long. NVOS did tap 9. NVOS, we are going to get ready for a trim this time around. Still trying to hold a green candle. If it can push these 50s, I think it's something that could push. And there we are getting the push right here. So here's a test of those 28s. Let's go ahead and get a piece off right there. Second trim, that's where the patience really pays off right there. So ring the register on NVOS. We got 28.14 fill right there, 28.14. Another notable move, FVR. We can come back to NVOS shortly. FVR, a nice move off the open. But you can see, I don't have it marked in, but you can see how this little confirmed double bottom, and it already wicked over top of this neckline, but now confirming that move with the green candle today. You know, if it wicked all the ways back in, I'd say, you know, not as good of a look. But you're getting a fresh positive break, reclaiming positive break. It's not fresh. So here's your fresh positive break. What makes a fresh positive break is you have a oversold move that tries to take positive, and here's your clean positive break that gives you a 25 to 32 move. It tries to give you a bull flag continuation, but gives you the negative break, and this is where the trend line starts. So this is a reclaim of positive. That's how I play that. But NVOS giving up those 28s, so really a really nice fill on the name. Devin, given that wick top, you know, we talked about this, and honestly, I should have been a little bit more clear. This is exactly how we had our chart marked. We looked at this as a potential breakout zone, but it did fill this gap. So really, if I was staying true to my plan, when we were building this position, we talked about this flat top as being a first potential area. But then when we seen this candle come in, we're like, hey, well, our next part of the plan was, you know, 5-10% trims off of this sell window. We didn't execute that. So that is, you know, just having just a little bit of that bullish feel for oil. Could have cost us a fill, but we do think that we can get this name up in these middle 50s. And if we get over middle 50s, I wouldn't be surprised to see some sort of move and try to attempt to get up to 60. So we have a lot of time left in this. We like the oil names, and we think that they can stay bullish. So let's just give it a little bit of time. TGTX up to those 1060s, so we haven't got alerted for those 50s yet, but you can see this nice green engulfing candle with the shaved bottom. You can see it's trying to reclaim that trend line, and there, no gap fill buyers. It pushed immediately right through that. So watching this live right here, where is it possible we just have this sort of trend line set incorrectly, where boom, 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 and this is actually trend line holding right here. So if I had my trend line set like this, I'm fairly confident that I would have at least tried it, averaging in some more. But with this green candle coming in now, if it pulls back in, we'd say like 1060 is a reasonable area where we can think about getting another fill for the name. But nothing changes with the name. We've talked about this flat top here at these 1080s. If this is building that coil for those 1080s, we think 1080 that there's going to be a lot more buying than selling. So that's the level that I'm more interested in. Looking at some more top movers, I'd say this Kraken is got significantly more volume than all these other names. So let's go take a look, and you can see we didn't have too much buying pressure into these wick tops, but now the second candle of the day coming in, a green engulfing candle. But looking at the daily, it's like, man, I mean, it's got some heavy resistance here at these 150s to 60. So, I mean, I don't think this is ready for me to try it. There's not enough information, and also trading at the lows. It's like, what's going to hold this from going lower? But MSOS, we do have a 1/7 trim on the position. That's fine. It's 3 pennies higher from our fill. ATHM, continuing to respect this trend line. We have one fill off 28.90s, 30 pennies in the money. Probably not worth bragging about, but I will be bragging about it when if this does want to break this downtrend and give us some sort of push or extension up to into those 30s again. Is really the type of move that I'd want to see. TGTX, you can see 8 pennies away from that 1080. If this is something that really wants to push that 1080, we think that it can. This can be a fun name to work today. NVOS back into 27, so getting that fill in those 28s was big. But I do think this is a good enough. If it closed a candle like this, it would be something that we hold into the close. Just being humble with it. You can see the flat bottom stair step setting up. If this breaks underneath this, which this gap is filled, you can see this gap up, gets very close and then fills it. If it holds this level, we think that it can give us that churn where, if it breaks over top of 27.57, which is day's high today, that this can catch a bid. But if it doesn't, we think that probably a retest back in, just marking these body highs, which also meets in over here. You can see low 40s is an area that we're probably looking for a pullback on this name. Warner Bros. Not surprised that it's a green candle, but I would expect this name to see some rejection into the low 12s. Maybe even 12 catches some rejection. Not the greatest look, but we are gonna keep holding this one. And I know you're probably like, dude, you're crazy. I just like the name. I wouldn't recommend if you're really scared to take a short-term loss. I would say this name probably isn't for you. I'd say probably punch short. Like this, getting into a little bit of this red candle, I'd say this is an area where you can think about punching short. In my humble opinion, I'm long on it. So, I mean, that doesn't mean that it's going to work out because I'm long saying that the short looks good. I would say just, probably a name to just stay away from, honestly, if you wanted to. But do whatever you feel is necessary. Amps. Kind of giving out the lows, holding strength. So if this does want to come into these 25s, let's just get an alert off those 29s, which is the wick lows. We think that this is a name that could potentially be added to. Is it going to keep setting higher lows is the question. Let's look at some losers. Let's look at some losers on the day. All of these are junk names. Nikola, we gave this a chance right here, and since it didn't catch a bid as fast as it could have, we said, hey, 91 cents, we can think about it again. We said, it's breaking higher, yes, but we think that scenario is going to take so long to develop. We know that the California scenario that transpired took a year and a half. I believe it was like a year and a half. So how long is this scenario going to play out in Hawaii? It's tough to say. It's tough to say. GNS, just a big nothing. If it was going to catch a bid, we felt like this red candle was not a good look for it. TY Go, solar just still eating it up. But I would say if I was playing a silver name, I'd be a lot more intrigued with Enphase. Maybe I just have that soft spot for Enphase, but I really think Enphase is truly undervalued, in my humble opinion. That does not mean punch long with everything you got. That just means that is what I'm looking for in terms of a long-term play. The Jets ETF, we talked about this a little bit last week. We said, hey, if there was a long that I was going to maybe try for an ETF, I'd say the Jets ETF is a reasonable long, my humble opinion. But keep in mind we are long DAL and we're long American Airlines, so maybe it's a little bit of bias mixed up in there. NVOS, let's go take a look at that 15. You can see the indecision. If this wants to be, we have an open of candle number 3. If this wants to build that ascending sort of look right here, we would look for an ascending and then a boom breakout. Uh, but if it does discredit this, why is my 34 not keep showing up? But I mean, it's all right. But if it pulled back into like 25, I'd expect this the teal, my 25 or my 21 to continue catching a bib. TGTX giving up, wicking up through that level, which I'm not surprised. I mean, you can see the sort of downtrend look right into that. But if it does come back in right here to these like 1050s, we think that this is something that could reasonably catch a catalyst. But if it gives up this trend line, how much action is going to be here off this gap? So I'd prefer that on this name to actually see it not give up this trend line. I know that's probably easier said than done, but INDO catching a nice bid higher. I don't have my volume or anything popping up. I don't know why it's doing that. But that's all right. We'll keep looking around. Let's take a look at Dish. We know that, oh, a nice move off the open here for Dish. But is these lows worth punching? Probably not. I would say this gives a feel for flat bottom break. And MSOS continuing the churn just a little bit higher. So let's go ahead and just get a little bit more off this name. And I know you're probably like, dude, this thing's pumping. But this will be my last trim on the name. So let's take a 38. That should be a 38 right there. We're going to take a 38, and we feel there's reasonable support. But if it breaks a little bit higher, we think that this can print up to possibly 9, or possibly just hold this and see if it can just go on a bull run and a half. But this is a pretty significant descending channel, probably not perfectly set by any means, so keep that in mind. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh yeah, this channel. But it has not really been able to break and hold above that. And just like that, down underneath those 7, so let's see what that fill came in. We got 739s there, so uh, by no means is that, since we're down 2 cents, doesn't mean it's the top, but I would say I would look at this as some sort of resistance for the name. NVOS catching a nice bid, still trying to hold this sort of ascending channel. All I would want to see is just a nice tight channel, and then boom, give me that nice green candle through the top end. I would say that would give a pretty significant look. Oh boy, oh boy. ATHM, a nice green candle move. NVAX rejecting that same area. So is this level worth trimming right here? That's a question that we're going to have to ask ourselves. And ATSA actually giving up that move, which a little bit surprised to say that. So let's take a look at the daily chart and see what we're looking like here. You can see probably has a tight channel to the downside. So is it going to be able to hold inside of this today? I'd say it's probably setting up some sort of break, but you can see the buying pressure that comes in off of these tops here. So if the same buyers can come on in, we think that it can be a winner. I mean, Invax already 3 million in volume. I mean, we got 6 hours left. I would say that already almost half of the volume from Friday's increased green volume that held the level. I think that it is something that could really get going. CGC, I just don't even ever want to look at this name. I should take it off this. When you get pennies on the dollar away from getting a fill, oh, and then does that, man, that's a big kick in the you know where. That's a big kick. But Soundhound giving up these 40s. We think that this is reasonable to hold in, and we don't have too much size on the position. So if this does want to pull back into this level again, we think it's a reasonable sort of area that we can try. But I would say short term, you know, it is trying to fill this gap right here. I'm pretty sure that gap was filled. It doesn't show it's filled here, but I would say it's officially filled now. But doesn't mean that it's going to catch a bid. I would caution the name, but I think that this flat top is some reasonable support. So I mean, if you wanted to buy the support level, it's not terrible. TGTX, is this going to alert us? Is it going to get any buying pressure in those middle 50s? MSOS 740s. Let's look at the top volume for the day. See if that has anything notable. NVOS back up to those 28s. Let's watch this live, because this is flirting with, you know, it might even want to go right now. Let's take a drink of coffee and watch this live. Oh boy, here we go. Oh boy, here we go. We're gonna get ready for this nice green candle up to the into these 29s here. And here's gonna be a test up to 29s right here. So let's get ready for another 1/14th trim. Is it going to be able to catch, you know, wicking trying to hold inside this channel? And I mean, we just randomly kind of put that channel up there. So by no means is it like, oh, it's still holding inside that channel. Get out, get out, get out. No, we think that if it can hold this 6 minutes left, if it can find a way to push that wick top, which is a 28.25 high. So 3/100ths of a penny above that level, you know, still wicking up there though. So not quite ready to go. Not quite ready to go yet. Um, so I mean, we could have had some trims there. We were really getting close in front of those 29s, but coming on back in. Let's see it keep following this channel and not give up the ghost to the downside, of course. But you know, it still has 5 minutes left. It could easily try to catch a bid at the end of the candle here. Looking at the top volume, looking at TTOO coming back in that retests that top. Does have some buying pressure, but I'd expect some profit taking with this setup. This setup alone just already giving you the feel of, hey, watch out for the descending channel. So we'll look back at this later and you're going to be like, wow, dude, it followed that channel like almost to the money. So a lot of times those first 3 candles can really give you a feel of how it really wants to go throughout the day. XLE still holding a strong move. Oh boy, NVOS. I looked away for a little bit and it's reclaiming this green candle. 4 minutes left. And here we're getting ready for a test of 29s. We have 1 lot, 55 lots, and here's 29 break. So let's give it a little bit more time and wait for that bid to stack up just a little bit more. And that's going to be good enough for us. So we should have got 30s there. We've seen the bid jumped up to those 30s briefly. And we did get 29.31, so another great fill on the name. And let's go ahead and this is our last kind of area that we've been looking for. So let's see if it can test up into those 30s. And oh man, I seen 88s on the ass. There was only like 5 lots. I thought I was just gonna rip. Uh, a lot of market orders just came in then on the sell, I would say. Uh, so I would say they're just respecting that level. As soon as that jumped up there, I didn't see any size on those 80s. I didn't see many size at all. But for it to jump back down right there, I'd say that was just, some more profit taking place, but buyers still jumping in, holding this name up. And here we're gonna go right back up to those 80s again, where we already know. Yep, it already blasted through the 85 size. But trying to stack again on 80s. Let's see these 30 prints come on in, and we can take another 14th print. We're almost down to 25% of the position left, where this is our last little area where we're looking for a nice significant pump to the upside here. $188 lots on 40s here, chipping a few of those away. And now a lot more size coming on the ask here. Let's see if it can really put it. Just took it out. So I mean, if it's able to take that out off of this pump, we think that we're gonna get some 30 prints here. And the size jumping up to 7, and there's 90s. Oh boy, we could have took some 90s when it was stacked on 90s there, but still think we're gonna get these 30s to print here. Ah, that was probably that wick top right there. It tapped 30s. That's what we were looking for. Ooh, man, we were looking for that. We can still get it, but and just like this, right back up. Oh, come on, come on, give us those 30s. I should have been right on the ask with that. I should have just had the limit order. But we were thinking really bearish. But looking over to the left of the chart, you can see that a little bit. You can see some wick, 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 wick. Let's see if we can get these 30s right here. It's an absolute monstrous move. From our from our order now sitting 53% in the money. Live trade taken on Friday. 51%. TGTX, believe in that nice green candle here. Oh boy. This is really setting up. I'm tempted to punch it higher than any of our fills from last week, but a significant and MSOS still continuing the churn. I think we can throw that puppy up here. That one has really been a nice little. I mean, and now that we have those two fills right there, that changed our average significantly. Significantly. But NVOS right back up to these 30s. Are we gonna see? We have the next open of the candle, and here we're at 80s. Oh, let's just get that order off in front of 9s, which wouldn't have printed us there, so it's not. But MSOS really, really getting going here. And NVAX, given that's why is NVAX and NVOS? Is there a relation with the two companies? You guys see how this is like an identical chart, right? You have this ascending tight channel. Now we're looking for that green candle push. You see the similarities? Obviously there was a candle difference. I gotta take this call. Hello? And we're back. We're back. So we have that wick top up to these 80s. We're on the ask at these 90s. I'm just not sure if we're gonna get the print or not. Might have to consolidate down into these highs just a little bit before we. But I did see TGTX gave that wick top through these 80s, and you can see the volume not significantly picking up, but relative to what it was doing on this kind of churn here, you can see the highest we really get. We have one kind of indecision candle right here that gets 18K, and these two candles right here are both putting up 15Ks. We got 16, or we have 6 minutes left on this candle. So if this wanted to leave a nice green engulfing candle, we would have 3 volume increases here. So that could be our 1080 break that we're looking for. So a decent start to that. But by all means, this wick top gives me the feel like, hey, we're still rejecting 1080s. We've wicked through it twice. What's to say that we're not going to wick through it again? Soundhound giving up the ghost to the downside. This is kind of what I was expecting. Honestly speaking, there was no follow through on this second candle of the day, and now just kind of flirting down lower. But we do have these low 40s marked. It could be an area that catches a little bit of support. But you can see the look, candle number 3. If this comes on into these 30s, I would just have a hard time thinking that there's not going to be some sort of buying pressure in the middle of this green move. Which, if we take that green move from the wick bottom to the top, you can see those 35s and those 30s are 2 retracements that we really like trying. Our half at 41 that we have marked could also be something worth taking a look at there as well. End phase, maybe potentially given a frowny face type of look, but we think that if this gets over those 3150s, that this could really get going. Which, if we just looked at the channel that we have marked, if this has dropped enough, we could see this really start pushing up. 150 is a reasonable extension area, but I would expect maybe even like these 40s. To maybe catch something. If this had some sort of downtrend in marked with it, maybe those 30s, that's a catalyst for this to get rejected potentially. ATSA still sitting in the middle of this channel. NVOS, probably the wick top there. For at least the short term, when you see a nice red engulfing candle come in like this, it still has the body candle here at 27. So if it just trades indecision here, I'd like the wick that it's leaving as of right now. But this channel has no relevance at all. If that didn't break out right there, I would say maybe you're more so like this. So if it can keep following this sort of area right here, I think could be something. DWAC catching a bib. Let's look at these other top movers on the day. We got CXAI on no volume. Let's look at the daily chart. It's going to be weak. Sure is. This is what, when you see something up big and it's light volume, a lot of times you're going to see that strength just down here. Yeah, where the big players, those days when you see big volume really come into those big movers, you see it give that positive break. DVN still kind of holding this level. It's right at that gap. If I talked about it when it was a red candle here, where maybe I missed that opportunity to sell this gap. But with it filling that gap, you can see the sideways action. All it would take is a nice green candle move, and this could be printing up over top of the day's high before we know it. So not gonna say that it's perfect. TGTX. Is this going to be something that's ready, primed to go? You probably have some sort of descending channel, respects the trend line. If it can hold this area, I don't like this volume increase. That's a little bit scary. But let's take a look at the chat. It's been a while since I even looked over there. That's my fault. Yeah, there's nobody. Oh, we did get another like though. But I mean, people just aren't interested in this type of trading apparently. I don't know how many 50 plus winners I gotta give out to get some consistent viewership. It's actually a little bit pitiful in my opinion. I mean, just the names that we've taken today. I mean, the, we're talking about a cannabis ETF that we're holding 35% in the money. We're talking about NVOS, a random penny stock, over 50% in the money. NVAX, frickin' NVAX, sitting 20+% in the money. Oil, we've been calling oil out for the last frickin' 4 months, and oil's printing at frickin' new highs. I mean, I don't know what else you guys want from me. I mean, if you guys aren't entertained on some of these moves, you guys would rather see floor traders trade for 30 penny scalps. Just don't make sense to me. Makes no damn sense. But what can I do? Just a random guy, 100 subscribers, average Joe. I'm just an average Joe. Let's look at EVGO. EVGO. Go EV is what it's called. There it is. You can see the consolidation. You can see if it trades sideways long enough, continues to hold upper 50s, that this wick top could be looked at as a neckline. DocuSign, notable move. This is an earnings play for us this week. We'll see if this can end up catching a bid in any way, shape, or form. We like the setup for it. Red strike, continuing to test that flat top. You can see the bull flag passes all the rules. 1, 2, 3, boom, 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 boom. 3 candle moves, 1 consolidation candle now. Flirting to take out the highs. This is going to be a name that we think could really get going, honestly speaking. Match group. You could say that we're building this sort of trend line wedge pattern right here. Decent little look. MRO flirting up towards those 28s. 3M. MSOS really flirting with those 750s. NVOS. Look at that candle close on that. Whoa. That wick of buying right there on NVOS is a significant little setup. And actually, I would say that with this setup, I wouldn't be surprised to see this go take out the highs. And here we are. Let's go look at the tape on NVOS, which, getting an absolute monstrous move. Almost 100 mil traded already. Now, it is a penny stock, so by no means is that adding the most relevance to it, but liquidity-wise, 100 mil, that's 29 mil in liquidity already. That's a significant amount of liquidity for the name, which if we look at the daily chart, you can see that the volume really picked up. Again, light volume on this pullback, and boom. Now we're over top of that flat top, and we're about to get our 29.9 fill. What's the high of this candle? The high of this candle is pushing 30s now, so we did get that fill. And here we go. Here we go. Yeah, when you see a setup like this, nice 3 candles, a nice red volume, and this decreasing red candle right here leaves a wick buy right there. Sheesh. Invex coming on in. This was a name that we probably should have trimmed 9. Uh, I'm not denying that 9 was resistance, but can this come back in and catch a bid off these 60s? We think that it can. TGTX, that volume increase off that breakout candle, maybe maybe needs a little bit of time to work itself out. But I would say that it is resting on top of the downtrend here. Right into these 60s though. NVOS trading back in. We think that this is getting ready to go. 10 minutes left. You can see we already have 2 million in volume on this candle. If this wants to, just hold this green candle long enough and the volume keeps picking up and exceeds 2 or let's say 3 mil to be safe, that's more volume than both of these candles. We think that this is getting ready for a rip up to like 36. Talk about not to mention this, guys. 609 ticker watch list. Hold that in retrospect right here. 609 tickers on this watch list. We pick the number 1 name Friday ahead of Monday. I would bet my bottom dollar. Bottom dollar. You name the guy. You name the investor. I don't care if he's the best day trader in the world. I would bet my bottom dollar that he would not be able to look through this entire ticker watch list on Friday and say this one is going to be the top mover on that watch list. Call me crazy. I'll bet my bottom dollar. You name your favorite investor, anybody. Anybody. I do not care. He cannot look through this 600 ticker watch list and pick which one the following day is going to be the top mover. I'll bet it. I will bet it. Go ahead. Go ahead. There's no one listening to me right now. I will bet it. I would bet a large amount of money that he would not be able to. I don't care who he is. You guys get to pick him. Go ahead. Go ahead. You guys will not be able to find him. I'll bet you. This is a rare occasion. Call it a fluke if you want. You cannot look through this 600 ticker watch list and pick which one's going to be the top mover. You can't. You can't. I did. I did. Not to mention that we were in at a 19 average, which is, basically the low from Friday, pushing 70%. You can't. You can't. You show me the guy, I'll look at it and laugh and just throw a lot of cash on the table and say, you can't do it. Go ahead and try. Because you know how much the odds would be in my favor? It'd be... It's a freaking crapshoot. TGTX crossing over. Is there going to be any buying pressure that comes in the middle of this green move? Now, I don't mean to rant and make it seem like, I'm the bee's knees. But on an absolute pump. Let's just go start taking off 128s. See if we can push through these 31 twos. And there's 31.2s right through it. Let's take piece right there. Oh boy, I worked myself out. Amps crossing over, so we are gonna get some orders in on amps. Do we need to wait for the trend line though? One more leg down. And there's another day's high print on the name. Just continuing the churn higher. We slowed up the amount of selling that we're doing here. And we're really waiting for those mid 30s, but you can see where this green line's at. You can see we still have some resistance that we got to fight through right here. NVOS absolutely flying. 32s. I seen the taps of 32s right there. I mean, talk about adjusting this tight channel twice, and now still breaking through that. Talk about the tight channel that, it's still trying to break out higher, by the way. Oh, by the way, it's still trying to break higher. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. What's a guy gotta do? What's a guy gotta do to get some love around here? Unbelievable. What's a guy gotta do to get some love around here? TGTX holding in all right candle right here. I don't. My indicators are just on one today. See it moving through that level. Let's go see what the tape's looking like here. I don't like the increased volume right there, so I'm not gonna add. NVOS wicking top end right there. If I'd adjusted it in time, I might have tried getting some more off of those 32s, but a nice candle close is due here, and I would expect with this volume, we talked about it, if this volume closes with more than 3 mil, which is at 3 and a fourth, wick is selling pressure as well, so we'd want to see this last 2 minutes claim as much of that green candle as possible. But potentially the wick top right there. I do think if it needed to trade down before it made that move up to mid 30s, I think it's possible. NVAX giving up those 60s, but can these 50s hold? We marked just a little bit below 50s. But NVOS a little bit of a washout top, with a lot of volume still coming into this name. DGTX still trying to hold these right here. 7 lots. 7 lots for the amount of volume that's coming into this isn't half bad. BAC. Anytime I see BAC close to that 2850 level, it's like you're flirting with this trend line. This is honestly a typical trade setup that I like to take on names that I like. It's negative break though, but can it reclaim that positive? I think it's possible. Yeah, it does have a dividend from Thursday that pays out end of September. And CGC on a nice pump to the upside. MSOS up to 750s. We're thinking continuation on both names. TGTX, you can see the wick breaking over top of that 1080. What was the name that we were talking about for descending channel? What was that name? Was it EDA? No, wasn't EDA. Well, it's not a top mover anymore. So, I mean, I would say that kind of proved my point. NVOS, 14 seconds left. Can we get a nice little churn up to like 30, 50? TGC might end up being that top mover for today. This is a significant, nice little move right there on a 15. And there's the open of the next candle. Are we going to see 32s print again? TGTX, you can see trying to hold 1070s. NVOS, are we going to see 32s print again? Honestly, a pretty decent candle close. I got the selling wick, but that volume increase looks really good for continuation. People are trying to push this name higher. ATHM giving up 29s. And getting ready for a attempt to break 31s here. We can try and find something else in the meantime. This AUR, Aurora Innovation, so another cannabis. Light. PNC, Premier, giving a nice gap up today. Did they report? PSTG taking out the highs. Talked about that in this candle, saying, hey, that washout wick looks pretty good right to that gap, a sneaky gap, direct correlation. Those are the tough ones to judge. Those ones are very tough to judge. I agree. 10x, have that neckline. That is a pretty good look on the neckline. Actually, a secondary neckline. Here's your first neckline. You can see it's holding above the price. Here's your secondary neckline. Nice confirmed higher low, takes out the high. A retest that wick comes right into it. Now trying to confirm a higher low. And also has a neckline break right here at these 37s. So, I mean, honestly, it's alertable. Where if we put an alert right there off that 36 break, it could be something that catches a bail. Let's see what the 15 minute looks like here. Not a lot of volume, tough to judge, but I think if it gets over top of those 36s, it could be something. TGTX. On candle number 3, if it continues holding this level, starts to build that U, we think that could be the catalyst it needs for an 80 break. NVOS wicking up to as high as 31.25. Excuse me. Let's look at some top losers of the day. You can see the candle as soon as those 40s came into play, right at that half, trying to catch a bid, but probably going to end up giving the smiley face consolidation back to the downside. You can see the descending channel here, probably not perfectly set, but you look at the daily and you can see the wicks. So just following the course of action to the downside. Amps, given the stair step look, but we really think down here in these low sixes that this could be something worth it. You can see a significant trend line that held off of a red earnings on earnings that actually weren't half bad either. Say with the NQ for the day. Oh, gaps down, retraces up, filled that gap, and now taking out that high. I'd say the Nasdaq not a half bad look. TGTX, given that churn, so if it gets some selling pressure in these 75s, trades back down, we think that is an opportunity that could be worth something, a look at least. Oh, that reminds me, I gotta check something out. TMF is a new kind of look that we're looking to add some more, or not. We're looking to maybe start a position here. It gives a move up, still negative strength. So how does it act down here? You know, giving out these lows, you would say that, and rejection, which you can see the wick top rejection right there. You know, looking at the weekly, the weekly just looks like, hey, we're going to have some more continued move to the downside. In all honesty, you're broken down below the sending channel, reject, reject, maybe catches a bid, but, where it would catch a bid, you just mark these lows, shoom, right up to that 750. I would just say that this probably has some more room to the downside, in my opinion. TGTX catching a bid up to those 74s. Invax, given the move, testing towards that neckline. If this is going to go, I would expect this level to have to hold, catch a bid, reject, try and hold 850s, maybe a false wick to the downside, but this is going to go. We got to see these buyers keep coming back in for the name. ATHM Still continuing, so buying that wick. You know, we could have had some orders in for those 75s, but it looks like 76 is the wick low, which is what we kind of talked about. We said we're going to try 90s, we can try 75s. 75s, one to filled, so target with a nice bull flag little setup here. Setting up the flat top, uh, giving the feel like it would need the trade down a little bit more. This is really where we want the target. You know, this is going to be that first buy window with the averages in off this flat top. That's where we really think target would be a very interesting long. And I wouldn't be looking at it as a swing trade. I'd be looking at it as some sort of long-term investment, probably. Looking at Baba, we think that if it does want to trade back down into these 90 flat range, sort of like this trend line area, we would say that this is a very attractive long if this pulls back into that 90. TGTX right up to those 75s, not showing any type of selling pressure. If this is something that wanted to build that U shape, we would not be surprised in the slides to see 11, upper 11 start printing. So from 60s, those are going to be first outs on the name if we get this break that we're looking for, of course. Let's take a look at Go EV. Go EV trying to trade back in. Go EV, you can see the consolidation back in towards this trend line. Given that flat bottom break type of look though. Let's take a look at GM. GM is still just hovering around this. It has just been hovering around this area still. Does it need to come back down to these 3250s? 3250s I feel is going to be respected. So we're going to show some patience on the name. But a name that we are getting a little bit antsy on is this TGTX. You can see the green candle move that's trying to make right here. Up to 78, a nice little increased volume. You know, you have the washout top, which gets some selling pressure. But now if it's able to get over top of that wick, I don't see a better area for an out on the name than 90s. So, I mean, to play it safe, you give it those extra 10 pennies to the upside. If this gets over 90, I think you're going to see a nice churn right through 11. That's a humble opinion. But with all the charting that we have right here, you know, is this a perfectly set descending channel? Definitely not. Probably something like that. NVOS, candle turning into an indecision candle. This is what we want to see. We have 2 minutes left in this candle. Let's see if it can, the lower wick highs right there is a little bit of concern, but all it would take is a nice shoom, and you could see 33s. You could see a nice green candle come in that tested up to those middle 30s. So that's really what we're going to be looking. And then we're going to be getting our last prints in over 36. This could really get going. You see this large gap right here, which I wouldn't be surprised if it took some time for this to play out, but that is why we're going to be continuing to trim the level and just hold a piece for that dream move. End phase still hovering around those 30s. Uh, going back to these top movers, there's not really anything that would be super alarming. Maybe Tilray, maybe Fubo. Fubo, yeah, I don't like it. It's off that uptrend. It's going to have some resistance. If this is some sort of retracement, you can see that retracement up to 330s. So, I mean, you got 40 penny moves where you're truly into some more heavy resistance, in my opinion. Small neckline break on this GMBL potentially. I just I'm kind of content on the day. I mean, if you'd have told me NVOS was gonna break out for a 50% move and we were gonna have trims at the top and still have 25% of the position, I would have said, hey, that's great. Today's gonna be a great day. If you would have told me Invex is gonna test up to 9, I probably would have said, yeah, we're gonna look for some trims in front of 9. So any type of evaluation period for today, I would say the Invex off of 9 should have been respected for at least some trims, but we still like the setup. And if you would have told me oil was gonna test into the 8750s, I would have said, yeah, my portfolio is probably gonna be looking decent today. Which you add all three of those in, it's just like, man, man. If you had told me ATHM we're gonna have a chance to buy us under 29 today, that was check the box. That was part of the plan. If you would have told me BAC trading around 28.50, we're gonna be thinking about adding some more BAC. We got a little bit more profit to play with. If you would have told me TGTX is gonna test up to 1080s, I would have been thinking, hey, we could be seeing an 11 break before you know it. This is going to have gap up written all over it. If it sets a closing candle anywhere like this, anywhere above 1062, it hasn't been able to close. I'm going to be looking for some potential extensions on the name. Still kind of light volume, but let's see what this volume really starts looking like if this breaks 1080. And end phase, yeah, end phase breaking over. I mean, we didn't have the greatest fills. Looking back, we said, hey, we can respect these 129s, and we can respect this neckline here at 28s. We tried 28s, and we looked at this as a buying window. If you would have told me, yep, end phase is going to be testing up to the 130s, I would have said, man, I wish I could bought some more. That's all. That's all I would have said. Oh man, I mean, I don't know what else can be done for today that's not going to be forcing anything. We've kind of really taken a look at everything that we wanted to. Maybe S-Fix. I did write down S-Fix for a potential little churn. And you can see actually putting in a decent green candle. But you look at the daily chart, we said to ourselves that this is going to have to give us a little bit more pullback. If it pulls back into, you get the fresh positive break on nice volume, kind of a consolidation period. If you would have showed me that it was a red candle down to 425s, I would have said, yeah, let's wait for a little bit more movement to the downside. But SVIX, I believe, is starting to set up as well. And you can see, like, since we moved over to it, actually, probably not a half bad long. Invos giving up the ghost just a little bit. looking at the candle, we finally are giving up that uptrend, but it's trying to wick into these previous highs. Does this need to have a little bit more time to consolidate before we get our bigger move into those middle 30s? Maybe, maybe. But that's why we respected in front of 32s as well. We said, hey, this is a nice churn to the upside. We can go take a look at. I mean, our best prints are off 30 and 31.5. So, I mean, if you would have told me, hey, you're going to print NVOS on 31.5s, I mean, I would have said, hey, today's going to be a great day. Great day. So, a lot of positives to reflect off today. And, no, I mean, we don't see anything else. In Soundtown, maybe a buying opportunity off those 41s. I'd still expect a little bit of a curl. If we go look over at the daily chart, you can see how our position, showing patience on this, just because it breaks down 250s doesn't mean that later on in the week it can't give us some sort of up move. And TGTX above 1080s now. So let's see if this volume is starting to pick up. You can see the open of the next candle trades down just a little bit. But I mean, I mean, I don't know what else to say, guys. I really don't know what else to say. The only thing I could possibly think of is I don't understand how people are not entertained with this. Brand new trade from Friday. Already got prints over 60% in the money. I'm telling you, this is not an easy thing to do. You look through a 600 ticker watch list. You pick out which one you think is going to be the top mover of the day, and I will laugh and say good luck. Because that is a not an easy feat to accomplish. That is a very difficult thing to accomplish. Uh, End phase giving a nice move through those 130s, kind of against what of a lot of everything else is kind of doing. ASTS respecting the bottom end of the channel, so I mean, this got super close to those 380s. I was not expecting 380s to come into play today. We just have a good till cancel order off of the 80s and 75s. So I mean, ah, boy, boy, oh boy. NVOS still trying to hold 29, so wicking into that 21. Light volume. If it can keep trying to hold these 29s, which it's wicking into that level, we still think that this can give us some more upside movement. And TGTX still churning just slightly, ever so slightly. You can see it's right there. It's right there. Where we really think some outs could be would be that 90 that discredits anybody short off of that wick. But then also, just looking further to the left, this is August 22nd. This is August 30th. So, I mean, if this wanted to go, we don't see why it can't go. Just, I don't know what else to do for you guys. I mean, MSOS isn't a title name, but sitting 36% in the money on MSOS. This is we have two trims on the name, just respecting the front of this 750 and pushing higher. I I just don't get it, guys. I don't. You I don't care who the guy is. I don't care who the guy is. It could be the best investor in the world. You give him a look at this 609 ticker watch list. I'll put a lot of cash on the table and say you cannot pick out ahead of time what is going to be the top mover for the following day. You can't. You can't. I'll bet you can't. And 1,000 times out of 1,001, I'm probably going to be right. I'm probably going to be right. There might be that one fluke time you can pick that top mover of the day. Yeah, I don't get it. Mr. Drift, holy buckets, nice to have you tuned in. I'm on one of those rant modes today, Drift, where it's just like, what do I gotta do to entertain more? Maybe you can help me out with this. I mean, we're looking at NVOS. We're trading NVOS Friday. Were we not? Were we not? We had the freaking wick lows over here before we got to have some fun trimming it to the upside. If you give any investor out there, I don't care if he's the best day trader in the world, and you give him this watch list of 609 tickers, and you say, pick the one that's going to be the top mover. Pick it. Go ahead and try. Go ahead. I'll even give you 5 tickers to pick, and I bet you out of those 5, you will not pick the top mover. I bet you. And I mean, I just don't get it, Drift. You know what I mean? Maybe I am preaching. Maybe I'm whining a little bit, and I just need to stay on a good mood. Let's switch the tempo. Now that you're here, I was just kind of just talking to myself. And just go over some of the title names. NVOS, obviously a nice move off the open. Sure, okay, maybe there's some luck involved there, but I mean, we got the entry on Friday, nonetheless. ATHM, we've been playing this trend line. We have one fill. We had a 90 fill. So all we did was we said that if this pulled back, and this was part of the plan made from the weekend, we said that if this wants to pull back, we get the gap up right here. If this pulls back into this 28.90, we're going to buy it. And after I got triggered in off of it, we said, hold on. We said if we were going to try an area, we would say 75s. We didn't put the order out there, but we said that if it comes further into this trend line, we're going to buy it. Well, it came in awfully quick, and we went and got 75s. It looks like 76 is the low of that candle, but still just kind of being patient with this name. We think that this trend line is something that can hold. If it gaps down on us, that's a risk that we're taking playing this trend line. But if we're right, you're going to hear us ranting about this name if we see this catching a bid, and for whatever reason, if it were to catch a bid to the top end of the channel, it's going to be an absolute monstrous move. Oil is one of the names on there. I mean, how many? I just have a podcast on in the pre-market, right? And everyone's talking about oil. Oil, and everyone's like, oh, just find an oil name and you're good. And it's just like, where was the analysis of oil when they're coming out with earnings reports? They're still putting up 40 to 80% margins. They're increasing oil production. They're buying back shares. They're increasing their dividends. Everything looks good except for the year-over-year numbers from 22 weren't good. That was all that it was. Where you still take where you're printing $60, $65 a barrel for oil, and they're still putting up 40-50% margins. That's just ridiculous. That's just ridiculous. And now that we're starting to get this breakout on oil, it's like, oh, everyone's a genius for calling oil plays when, oh, it's not about tech anymore. It's about oil. And it's just like, man, can I get some love over here? You know what I'm saying, Drift? It's just like, I keep kind of tuning back to that, but to one of just the newer oil plays, one that we felt was not catching that bid like a lot of these other premium oil names was Devon, and we identified a nice trend line. We liked their earnings report, putting up gap 107, with oil still being kind of down there in those 70s over that Q2. You talk about, they did what they needed to do as a company. You look back at these dividends and you're like, oh, they were giving $1.55 a dividend. Now they're only giving 49 cents. That's what the company needed to do. I clap it up for the management team, because a lot of people will look at that and they will dog you for that. But they could not afford a $1.55 dividend. It is clear as day. And if they are going to use that capital, that free cash flow, to buy back cheap shares instead of paying a dividend, sign me up. that I applaud the management team for doing that. And we're still early into this. By all means, we're filling a gap today. So honestly, if I really wanted to trim this, this would be a day that I would say, okay, let's take a little bit of profit, 5 or 10% trim, and let's look for an upside move. I'm just gonna hold it. If it wants to come down in against me, we'll think about 51s. If it wants to come down in further into these upper 40s, we're going to be buyers. With oil in these 80s, it's going to be very interesting to look at their earnings reports for Q3. I think these numbers get blown out of the water personally, with oil elevated like it is. Uh, but I think that's going to be industry wide. If we see oil, I mean, this is just the tip of the iceberg. If I was just marking a level, I mean, this flat top 90 is not out of the question now. And if we're seeing 90, uh, and if we're seeing 90s on oil, 90s just a start. We got to get to the point where we're setting in retracements here, you know, we're just finally tapping this 382 or half as mid 90s. I mean, this move could easily end up being up to that 702. If we're printing $100 a barrel on oil, forget it, man. These oil companies are going to blow these numbers out of the water. Just absolutely crush them. My humble opinion. And, we talked about it back in early summer that, tech was really rallying. Tech was really going. And the one thing I could say is, these guys that are taking advantage of this tech, they're really going to regret not getting that oil entry. They're going to regret it. And, it's just crazy just to see just kind of how the news, like, yeah, I'm sure there was news related stuff in with oil, but it's just like the signs were there back in the spring. It's crazy, man. Looking at Soundhound. We're gonna stay positive from this moment on. I'm done ranting. We're just gonna stay positive. Soundhound. We think this is gonna have some time. We just want to see decreasing volume right here. We got a nice wick of buying into these 40s, which, if we just mark this green move right here, you can see that half is those 40 flats right there. If this does want to come back in to this sort of neckline right here, or maybe these body lows, that's our 618 and our 702. We're going to hold this sound down position. If this wants to work for us, we think that we're going to get that 270 break. And after 270, we're going to be looking for these gap fills for extensions and potentially these lows over here. So we're not giving up on the Soundhound yet. We're not opposed of adding. It just might need a little bit more time to kind of work out. But I do like the wick of buying here. Got to go with your analysis. I agree, man. The best positions that I've taken are off of my own analysis, and I would say that's probably true for a lot of people. When you get into the point where you put a lot of credit into the wrong person or the wrong people, especially you got to understand what their motive is. You got to understand what their time frame is. I mean, when oil was down in there in the 60s, I hate to keep beating a dead horse on it, but when oil was down there in the low 60s, we were okay if it gave up that level. We were okay if oil wanted to come down into the 50s. There would have been some blood. No question about it. There would have been blood. But looking at it from the long-term perspective, we had enough there for us to say we don't care what everyone else is saying about oil. Everyone was talking about short oil. Short oil. Oil's coming down into the 50s. Just wait. No, we were playing the support level, and I couldn't be more happy with how it's playing out. But more so on this Soundhound. If this is going to pan out, this is candle number 3. It is giving that stair step, so the move to the upside might be slow. We're just looking for that slow churn, but if this does want to give a, just taking this pullback. We'll take the pullback from the wick high. You can see in front of those 90s is our first extension. In front of those 315s is our next, and you can see these previous lows is that full extension. So kind of mapping out the play. Now if this needed to come back down in just a little bit further, you can see that first extension meeting closer with that gap, next area, and the full entirety of this retracement. You can see that full extension meeting up at this resistance point and our final extension, our retracement, meeting up right at that gap, looks really good. So we can hold a piece for that extended move if need be. But panning out, if I did have uh, some type of, back to reality moment today. We've talked. I talked about NVAX multiple times last week. That 860. Look for that 860 break, and boom, you got it. And if you were gonna map anything else off of that, that 9 level was huge. You rejected it here, and now we've set that double top wick into that, and now giving up the ghost. Is this gonna be something that can keep holding the level? The volume definitely increasing today, but that wick washout top, we just want to see if it can reclaim 60s. If it can claim 60s, we think that this next candle can actually give us a gap up. Might have to retrace down, kind of like today. You gap up, you retrace down, doesn't quite fill the gap, catches a bid. If this is going to catch a bid, that true breakout is going to be over that. So anything before this 925, 935 range, I would say is probably worth trimmable. But clear outs on this underneath that 790. That 790 right here is going to be a clear out underneath that wick low. So we will take the win on this position if that comes on in. But we like the setup still. The only thing that I would want to change on today is should have got a trim. Should have got a trim anywhere in this, even if it was in the upper 80s. That was worth a trim. Just looking at that level, but we're feeling a little bullish on today. And that volume increase just didn't get matched. You can see the volume on this move up really declining. So the early sign was there for the exhaustive move. And you can see this candle, even when this candle comes in, probably worth maybe taking a piece out. When you see that volume increase over that third green candle, which had a wick of buying, so it's like, why didn't it? But you can see that coming right into that 9 level. So that's the one thing I would say for today. Notable, end phase, we dipped into some more end phase last week, actually on Friday. Uh, is it going to be able to push this sort of downtrend that means nothing? I mean, there's nothing really there. But top end of the channel, I'd say meeting up with some of these lows over here. If this wanted to retrace over, 150s to 160, maybe a trim opportunity. But I'll be very bullish if we see end phase up there in those 150s. This is a name I really like for the long term. Uh, and I would say a monster level. And looking at it, I would say I'm still bearish on the chart. I would be willing to say that it's gonna get underneath these 120s. You get underneath this wick low and you get some stop loss to start kicking in. How much of a red candle is gonna come in? But you can see these support levels down here that we are looking to play. Uh, so if it goes against us, I think that's actually gonna pan out better for us in the long term. But if once it start catching a bid, we got our position made how we like it. It's just going to be a matter of time. It's going to need some time to work out some levels. But long term, we are extremely bullish on the name, and we do not think that in these 250s to 270s is out of the question. When it gets moving, it will start moving. It's just going to take some time. Just going to take some time. But yes, that is end phase. Not a title name today, but we like the name. But looking back, let's go take a look back at NVOS. It's been a little bit of time. If it can close a candle like this, we're gonna hold. And we're sitting probably about a little over 25% of the position still. But mapping out those same levels. Here's that 30. That is wicking into it as of right now. And I would say marking that wick and the start of the gap is that next extension level that we're looking for. So if it's able to take out this high, we don't see why it couldn't catch a bid. But this is actually flirting with breakout territory more than what it's already broken out. Because if it gets over top of this 36, there's nothing really left there where we can think about some trims into 60 is that bottom wick. But you gotta go way to the left. You can see adding into this resistance over here. If we just made this a horizontal line, you can see that is potentially some previous resistance that could be working in right here. Not a clean chart, very light volume over in those trading days, but You can see the increased volume coming on in. Actually getting a fresh positive break on a weekly is a big take. It's tough to get that positive break on weekly charts. The weekly is going to move a lot slower for you. But this TGTX, this is also one from Friday that we had a couple fills on. We thought about getting a fill. We had an alert trigger on that TGTX. And we'll go talk about amps as well. I'm looking to buy some more. We are holding just that same small piece. We've only had 2 fills on the name. Probably could have had some outs in front of 7. Probably could have. But we also have an active on Go EV. We'll go take a look at that as well. And SFix, I do want to keep an eye on as well. But looking at TGTX, you can see crossing over. Here's that crossover. We said, hey, it pushed it. A little bit of a red increase in volume right there, which kind of scared us from taking this. But you can see the descending channel. You can see the open price opening right in the uptrend. And you had that gap fill as protection right there. So, you know, even if you tried it right here and it wicked down lower, this could have been a last entry, and you could have ran a tight stop underneath of these 40s. Call it like a 1037. You know, really the downside risk wouldn't have been that much. Would have been about 1%. So I mean, we've definitely risked more than that before, but we didn't get an entry on it. But showed us the move. We think if it gets over 1080, which it's holding above it right now, that this could get going. And I'd say if anybody was taking this short off of this 1080 and they were giving it 10 pennies, that's where this 1090 comes into play. So if it gets over 1090, we think that TGTX really could get going. You look at the daily chart, still sitting negative 63. But all it would take is for this to catch a bid, run up to those 80s, and this could be getting ready to go. You take the retracement through this move, you can see what are we wicking into? We're wicking down towards that 10 flat, boom, 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 right through that, and closing above that 7 or that 618 every time. And now really trying to flirt with it. So this is a retracement from the red move. You can see that 1090, that is that line in the sand that we say, hey, we think that some shorts are going to be exiting that position at 1090. That's our half. So if this wanted to catch a bid up into that range, you know, before you know it, 1150 could be looking to break out higher. And of course, 10x. Uh, we like this sort of neckline right there. There's your first neckline, but even this little confirmed higher low right there, you can see direct wick action off that. Now this is one part that I like about it, is that this would say to me that, you know, there's some sort of iceberg order off of that neckline that would hold that price. Now if it can hold, we have a neckline breakout area kind of for this 36 area. So if that wants to come on in, that's also one that we're keeping an eye on. MSOS, we started taking some prints, you know, not the greatest fills, but we got a 39 and we got a 48. Just kind of respecting these wick tops from Friday. Given a continued move, if it wants, and this isn't a perfectly set down, channel to the downside, but it's reasonable enough to say that, hey, we could be starting to set some sort of new trend to the upside. And they were bigger trims. They were 1/7 trims, and we took 2 of them. So we took off a little bit of that size, but still sitting with a significant piece of the position. And I think we're going to be holding, and at least for this previous low, which has another 14% to the upside, 13% to the upside, give or take. You know, at the time when it was at 750, I think it was 14%. But NVOS reclaiming those 850s, you know, I would really like to say that if it can close above 860, that this could be a gap up, try to retrace down and then go. But I would be surprised if there wasn't some sort of moving average that was just kind of straying away, like right in through here. It's probably something, you know, let's just go take a look. I would be willing to bet that there's some sort of moving average that's coming in right here, and based off of how long this is traded sideways, I would probably bet it's the 200. And maybe we kind of put a wick through that 200 if it is the 200. But, you know, with as long as it's traded sideways, it might even be rolling in through here, and this move was a break of that. So I don't know. I feel it's been trading sideways. Yep. And here we are. You know, I was a little bit off on the level. We actually haven't tapped it yet, but here's that 200 daily rolling in through there. So is it going to double top in this? But we think that if it can break over top of that, that is where we're going to see that more of an extended move where, is it going to set some sort of trend for a 17? That would be an extraordinary move. But it does have some resistance up here at 12. So if we can get that, that's really what we're looking for. Looking around, TGTX continuing to give that little bit of a churn. Now we're flirting with day's high, which 85 looks like it's the high of the day. 86, so a nice slow churn. We got 3 fills on the name with a 65 average. Could have averaged some more right off the open, so just didn't pull the trigger on it, but I mean, we're okay. I would say BAC. Everyone's saying, stay away from the banks, stay away from the banks. I'm going to continue building this BAC. I just think that the value here is a very good long-term look, my opinion, of course. But I would say a premium bank name like this, no, that's probably a bad way of saying it. But actually pretty good year-over-year numbers, buying back shares, increasing dividends. It's oil all over again. It's oil all over again, and I would say that this trend line is worth taking a dip at. Whether you're buying a bank ETF, whether you're buying a bank outside of the United States, whether you're buying some just individual regional banks. I think that the banks, a lot of that negativity, it's possible. Now, bear with me when I say this. It's possible that there is a lot that's already baked in. It's already baked in, and where I would say it's baked in is ahead of all the interest rates. You see, this is February. You could even say that leading up into the 2022 year, that a lot of it was trying to be baked in, and it's possible that there's more bad news to come. I'm not denying that. But I'm just saying that it is possible that the market is smarter than you. It is smarter than the news, in that when you naturally get that bake-in price, when it starts going the other way, it's not gonna be easy to get that entry on the way up. It is not. It's hard to do. A lot of, I'm a guy, Drifter's still there, I hope. I'm a guy that likes to play the strength. I'm a guy that's okay buying it at a higher price if the setup is there. When the and I've been trying to do it for a long time. When the price starts moving up, yes, you might get that fill. You might get that fill, but you're not going to get the fill with the size that you want. You're not going to get the size on that position that you want. So when you get these premium names that are actually legitimate long-term investments, even if they go against you, it's so easy to just buy the levels to the downside. Like if BAC printed 25 today, it would be so easy for me to say, yeah, let's just go take a piece. Let's just go get a piece of it, or let's wait till tomorrow and see what the action's like, or maybe we'll give it a week or a month, and for all you know, it trades down into those lower 24s, maybe even the lower 20s, and it's like, yes, this is a great buy if you're looking at the course of the long term, in my humble opinion. There's more than just this little trend line that you're really going off of with this name. You look at back at '08, you have a legitimate long-term trend line that you could be saying, hey, this is there. This is there now. This is nut up or shut up. Are you gonna pull the trigger? Which actually has, a beautiful ascending channel. If we're talking about potential upside for a quality dividend, 24% payout ratio, solid revenue increase, I'm sure there's increased defaults. I'm sure there's a decreased amount of liquidity in the accounts. Sure, but I would be shocked if it was like that. Looking 5-10 years in advance, where top end of this channel is 21, top end of this channel is 18. If we're looking at a 3-year outlook, I wouldn't be surprised to see this name printing up here in the over 50s. We'll start with 50s, but I just think it's a legitimate type of setup. So I do think that the market is smarter than the gurus. I would say that banks, even though there's going to be some bad news, I think banks are legitimate investments leading forward. We're looking at the price. Your weekly, just barely taps that positive. You got a clean negative break. Your negative break on a weekly is dating back over to February. Been a long churn to the downside, where all it would take is, I mean, you can say confirm a higher low. You break that neckline. Before you know it, it's going to be oil all over again, where we're putting this sort of tool in there. Oil just tapped in this 382. That's 35 bucks. Where I would not be surprised to see the banks catch that bid up into here. We can go into anything that's been on this huge downtrend. Here's your Nasdaq. Nasdaq. There's your last two retracements. I mean, just building this support level off of a trend line. That's all it took. That's all it took. It didn't take knowing everything that was going to transpire over the course of the year. You didn't need to know any news to say that, hey, this is trying to coil. We got a confirmed higher low. We're breaking a neckline. We reject the 382. We pull back in. Here's your weekly chart. Here's your positive break on a weekly chart. Here's your rejection of a weekly. Here's another rejection of your half, and it's kind of getting close to that middle ground. Here's your big players. I say it all the time. Your big players are in that middle ground. Boom. How would you like to come back to the beginning of the year and say, yeah, let's take this? I sure wish. You know what I mean? It's just fluctuating the same setup across all the industries. They're not at the same point, but the setups are very identical. I don't know. That maybe I'm just ranting too much. But on a positive note, TGTX getting close to that 1090. Getting close to that 1090. Are we going to see some volume start to pick up? Yes, we are. We're seeing, we got 10 minutes left, and you can see this green candle being the fifth green candle for now. But printing days high and significantly over these wicks. You have one last wick to really get over. Let's mark that, which meets in a crossover there. So that's right at your 11 break. So let's see if this can give us that type of move. Let's go take a look back at NVOS. We're now on candle number 4, pulling right back into the level, giving up this sort of tight channel to the upside. That doesn't mean that it can't break higher. I would say, looking at it from this perspective, is you probably have a more legitimate trend line here. So if it needed to pull back some, we're okay holding this name. Looking at the potential upside for it, we have almost 75% of the position trimmed. We don't see a reason why. You do have the decreasing volume, 1, 2, 3. Each one of them has a wick, passes the rules, now putting in a green candle with a wick. You got your 34 protection, getting ready to discredit this entire red candle right there. Does it need to reject 30s and sort of just trade sideways? Maybe it does. With this type of setup, I'd say, okay, let's go set up the flat top, trade sideways, and then when it takes out that secondary flat top right there, that's where it discredits, 1, a double top, but 2, that's where you're going to be having a lot of this red volume that is trying to short this down. They're saying, hey, this name doesn't deserve to be worth 29 cents. We're shorting it right here, and we're going to short it back to the trend line. Well, when that discredits, that's where you're going to see shorts exiting and the longs trying to push the name for another breakout. TGTX up to day's high, 1091. Nice look. A nice early look to this position. But let's go over to amps. Amps. Still trading sideways. And you're like, dude, you really had this up here at these 690s and didn't take any profits. Yeah, I know. Looking back, it was only small position. It was only small position, and we really thought that this was really setting up for some sort of break. But you can see the sort of wedge pattern that we have drawn out, a really solidified trend line. I'm really looking to average a lot more size into this trend line. If it wants to break out before it does that, great. If it wants to pull into the trend line, we can actually get this position built where we'll probably have some easy outs underneath that 6. Here's 590. you know, if 590 comes into play, we're probably not gonna want to hold this lower, but we can have some entries into this trend line. Respect 6 on a false break to the trend, which is that green body candle. You have a sneaky gap right in there at 99s as well. You see that 99. That is going to be an area that we try, and then just give it 10 pennies. If that stops us out and it holds this support level, it holds this previous top right here, uh, you know, maybe that's a reason why we could hold it a little bit more. But I would really like to see that trend line hold. Looking around, looking around. What do we got? What do we got? NVOS. I fell asleep at the wheel a little bit. NVOS really discrediting that. So that fourth candle. Drift, how many times have I showed you this same setup where you get a nice move and you have three, and as soon as that first red candle right there comes in, where you got the wick top, this one not so much because it has a lot more buying pressure. But how many times have we been right here and we're like, yep, that's the first one, looking for 3 red candles and then it starts to turn up. How many times? This setup right here has been absolute gold. How many times? How many times? I mean, if you were just building off this 21, you're starting here at 28, 2850s maybe, and you're like, okay, let's try one more order off 25s. 25s trigger, and you're like, oh, here we go, coming down to the 34. Let's get some orders off in front of 2750. You probably would have missed the fill, but now your whole position's now sitting in the green. It's just like, how easy is it to just average in, you know, maybe even if you were being very bullish, saying, yeah, let's try this previous high, we're going to get more continuation. Well, that's in the money now too. So I mean, it's just playing the levels. I appreciate that, Drift, but no, on a serious note, how many times, whether you're on a 15, whether you're on an hour, whether you're on a daily, whether you're on a weekly, how many times do I need to go over the oil? Do I need to go over the oil to show this weekly? How many times? You know, obviously this third candle didn't come in, but this is a weekly chart. This is a lot of information that's being intaken right there. How many times have we been on this type of setup and that third candle, which let's look at Sound Down right now. That third candle is that entry, and then we start to get that move. This is just, that's the go-to setup right there, Drift. If I could map out a setup, sometimes when you're going off of a daily, it's hard to market, but I mean, just looking at that support level at 250 or 247, draw the line in the sand. Tops 1, 2, 3. Now we're sitting and we reclaimed 50s again. Let's see what this 15-minute looks like. Man, you got a descending channel. Clear as day. Clear as day. All it's going to take is a discredit of this channel, and boom, you're going to see this 270 break come on in. And before you know it, you're printing that 291. Before you know it, you're printing that 315. And if you're lucky, you get top end of the channel up here on a 4 test. How many times? And not only does it have this setup, look at this trend line. Where when we were over here and we started this position off this 250, this is where we really started that 250. We seen that it was giving that move up. That's the start of the day. Where is that start of the day candle? Oh, it was the next day. So here's that 250. It gaps up. Here's where we're playing that 250. And we said when we started that, hey, this is going to possibly have to trade down to this trend line. Well, look at the sideways consolidation that we've had around 250. And now this trend line that we were really preaching, it's there. We're there. So it's going to be interesting to see Sound Down play out. TGTX giving a nice push up to 94s. Looks like it's a high. ATHM sort of discrediting our moving averages here. Slight pickup in volume, but you get that positive break. What makes this a fresh positive break? You get that oversold look. You reclaim positive, you give up positive, and then you reclaim positive again. Gorgeous setup that this is having. If this can break over 30s, which is the high from Friday, we think we're in on a winner here. MSOS, yeah, maybe could have been a little bit more patient with the name. Absolute rip of the name. Notable move, Devin claiming those 54s. We said that, hey, look at this tight sideways consolidation. This is an area we could trim, but all it would take is take out that wick high, and we got the tops over here that we're going to be flirting with. So Devon really, really looking bullish right here. You can see the confirmed higher lows. You have this neckline that doesn't get respected, sets the double bottom. Here's your neckline break, gaps up, doesn't pull back. Nice green candle. Now, flirting with this true neckline break right here. Oil testing up to 88, actually at the day's high as we speak. Talk about one consolidation candle on the daily, and boom. Beautiful, beautiful. NVOS getting close to that 860 again. Giving a nice curl, 1, 2, 3. Kind of gives that false break to the downside, but if you were looking at this as, here's your left leg, builds a neckline, high or low, takes out the high, let's retest that neckline, gets really close, really close. PWM, I'm so glad to see a rejection. In the pre-market, this was up 8%, and I really would have felt like crap, but you can see, not enough information yet here. Now that this gap is pretty much filled, is this going to be something that can break this wedge pattern? That's what we're going to be waiting for on this name. See if it can break the wedge. If not, so be it. DFS daily. Able to fight through these lows right here. Now this might not seem like much. But wick, false break, gaps up. So now, if it can pull back into this area, I think this 88.75 gap is respectable in my opinion. But you still have a lower high, lower high, lower high. Is this going to end up being a neckline break eventually? Potential. There's potential there. I'm not going to say it's a guarantee or a drop in the bucket, but there's potential. ASTS, you can see the little bit of volume increase, not much, but if this is able to break 410, we really like ASTS. We're still holding that same 390. Actually, it's 392. We averaged up some on the ASTS at 97s on Friday. You know, we thought that 97 was something for a potential 4 break. It was 1, 2, 3, candle number 3. Well, now, given that stair step look, but the buyers are there in the middle of this green move. If this is some sort of smaller retracement from tops, you can see that 380 is that 702. So 380 and that gap fill meeting up on our last retracement. We're going to give this one a chance where, you know, after these 80s and these 75 fills, we feel we have easy outs underneath of the lows, which if you mark the lows, you could give it this wick low just for full protection. Well, then you're at 350. It's like, okay, let's give it to like 345s. Well, then you risk getting wicked out. But we would rather it just not come down into that range. We would like to see it give that move to the upside first. But MSOS on an absolute pump. Testing up to 8s now. Beautiful move. Beautiful move. TGTX flirted with that 90. We said 90 looked like a potential sort of breakout area. So let's see if this can pull back and into these previous highs, which is an 80 test. There's your 1080. If this pulls back into the middle of that green move. Red engulfing coming on in. A lot, that volume just spiked up. I could almost go back and rewatch that. But the volume did pick up a little bit. Let's see it wick and discredit that selling pressure. Let's look back at NVOS ATHM I don't even know how to pronounce that. Mullen, 52 mil in volume. Nice consolidation. If that got discredited, boom, right back down. What did we say? We said that if this was going to catch a bid, it was going to be on this day, or one of these 2 days. This candle being red was a big tell for a continued move to the downside. Why? Because you got the 1, 2, 3, and you see this. It's tough to see right here, but you can see this frowny face being made because that wick's a little bit higher. This was a big tell. I mean, there was no need to try this right here. I would say that, you know, if it does want to hold this support, maybe there is a bid to be caught. But until it gets over top of these lows, I think you can wait for like, and I know you're gonna be like a 90 break. A 90 break is 40 cents from now. I would humbly say I would look for that 90 break or maybe a dollar break before trying this name. Humble opinion. Or wait for the lows and you can try buying the lows. If we looked at this move to the upside, honestly, 12 cents could be this move to the downside, which might sound crazy, but that's how I would play that. How about not getting that uranium entry on this 35 flat top? You probably don't remember it, Drift. I wouldn't expect you to remember it at least. But we said, hey, broke that downtrend, putting in a nice green candle on the retest. Oh, man. What a nice long to have. Even if we were taking that positive break, look at that. Comes in, holds like a glove right off that neckline. Gives a nice sideways consolidation. Look at that. Just up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. Beautiful, beautiful look on the uranium. I'd say uranium looks good for. Look at that U. Man, that looks like a good long to have. A nice wedge pattern. That wedge pattern actually reminds me of Veil. That wedge pattern reminds me of Veil, which is the same 12. Remember when this is at 12.25 and we're like, we'll be a little bit greedy right here. It gaps up. We're like, it's gonna come back into 12.25s. It'll retrace back down. I cannot believe we didn't add more size on Veil. I'm actually in disbelief. As long as we talked about Veil when it was doing this, it baffles me that I didn't have the courage to try the long on this knife. We even said it. We had this trend line set something like this, and it gaps down below it. We said this is the last time we're adjusting this trend line, and all we did is we did this. We moved it right below the low. And we said this is the last time we're adjusting it. And just like that, you know what I say about callouts? So traders will make a million callouts. If you don't take it and put your money where your mouth is, it don't mean shit. I shouldn't say that word. It don't mean squat. It don't mean squat. If you don't put your money where your mouth is, that's something that will bother me a lot. Is when I'm maybe watching a podcast or just somebody trade live and he makes like 10 call outs in the matter of like 20 seconds, and one of them pans out how he says how it says it's gonna go, and then he's like, see, I told you, and he tries to talk himself up like he's some sort of saint or some god sent. If you don't put your money where your mouth is, it don't mean squat. You tell him, Drift. You tell him. NVOS, reclaim 30s. Let's see if this is going to get bullish or not. Here's the flat top. I would expect this. I'd expect the people start to say, here's the double top. Double top's in. I love when people start saying double top, because this setup right here is actually a beautiful setup for a continuation. All it takes is pull back in, confirm this low. You get some buyers that come in on this green move, and maybe it takes a little bit to pull back in, but if you see it wick up into that 30 half a few times, I would just put a line right above that, and I would say your success rate, if this pulls back in and holds the green candle and then takes out that top, that is honestly, it's buying it higher. But in reality, it is a very, very, like, in my experience, I would say, in my just over the course of the last couple months, it's something that I've tried to identify and tried to be better at, taking that flat top break right there, which that's in the territory where you could see those washout tops. Anytime you're dealing with breakouts, especially on a name that's up 40%, you can see this up 40% on the day. It is a little bit difficult to do. But when it sets up that flat top and just trades sideways, if there's no big red engulfing candles, or each one of those pullback candles leaves a wick of buying, it's sort of that confirmation that you're looking for. Like, okay, this could potentially break this flat top. Where actually, I'd want to see what I want to see in a perfect setup for this, let's just hypothetically say that this is the flat top it's going to build. I'd want this third pullback candle to have a wick top and a wick of buying, where that wick top is actually a place that you can put orders in. So if this had a wick top, maybe we can go to a 5 minute and we can see it. Not so much. Not so much. I'd want to see it a little bit higher, a little bit more of a wick top, but this is kind of the candle where you could say, okay, let's mark that wick top, and you can see maybe it's something like this. It can be a green candle, but just mapping that out, you're looking for that false break at 29, and boom, wick up and test back up to that flat top. But you'd want to see this candle start showing a wick. So if this candle leaves a wick up and tries to hold 30s, the next candle pulls back in and excuse me, and keeps wicking towards this, and then eventually you can maybe get that fill for a false break of 29, and then boom, it starts to make that move, and then as soon as it claims that, it's going to give you that move to the upside. I shouldn't say it's gonna. It's just kind of the setup that I'd look for that. But back to the 15 minute. You can see more of a wick top than it needed to be. We got 6 minutes left in this candle. You can see the buying pressure coming in this green move. So I'm sure a lot of people out there are like, yep, double top, it's in, bank on it. And then as soon as they get taken out, it's like a straight rip to the upside. Beautiful, beautiful. The only thing that actually makes that move a little bit better is if you have a VWAP that's meeting in right there, which in this scenario it probably doesn't have a VWAP. Your VWAP opens up at 25. It's probably sitting at like 27. What are the odds my call out on a 27 VWAP on NVOS is? Let's go take a look exactly where VWAP's at. The stupid line is what I like to call it. But let's go take a look. Let's switch over to a 15 minute, and VWAP is at 28. Dang it. So you could say, oh, yep, VWAP's holding. I would say VWAP holding here gives me more of a bearish look, because when the stupid line fails, you're going to see a I think my dog's going to go outside. TGTX coming on in aggressively. So this would kind of discredit any type of move that I would say. Maybe these initial shorts off this 1080 level, they're just giving that out up to 11. But we have 5 minutes left. If this can leave any type of wick, I'd feel a lot better about it. NVOS. Candle's still trying to turn green, so that's why I like to give that 15-minute candle a close. I'm not gonna sit here like, if I go over to a 1 minute chart, you're like, oh yeah, oh man, look at that lower high, and you're sitting here mapping it out, ready to go. It's not really anything. You could say something like that, maybe. I don't know, but yeah, I just don't understand 1 minute chart, so that's why I don't use it. Some people, they're really good at trading a 1 minute chart. They're really good at it. I just can't do it. Maybe I just haven't been taught the correct way to do it. I don't know. Maybe you can testify, Drift. What type of chart are you looking to use personally? And if it's not a 15-minute chart, if it's a 5, if it's a 1, if it's a 30, if it's an hour, if it's a daily, it doesn't, because every trader is going to be different. I might talk crap about a 1 minute chart or using VWAP, but if that's what somebody has to use to trade their strategy, everyone has a different strategy. There's millions of them. So sometimes I do get a little bit uh, on my rant where I talk down some other trading strategies. But at the end of the day, everyone's got to find a strategy that works for them. But I am going to take a little bit of a break here. I'll be back, Drift. I'm going to refill my coffee, and I'm going to let the dogs out right now. And I actually have to flip some laundry as well. So I will be back. And we are back. I see NVOS setting up this flat top. All it would take is reject that level, pull back in to the middle of the screen, move somewhere in there, give or take. We go on that 5 minute. That kind of correlates with that sort of wick top right there and that wick top right there. That false 29 break, boom. Probably giving up these lows could be looked at as a little bit bearish. But all it would take is set up that flat top, confirm this higher low, and like 2 candles later, you take out this 31, and before you know it, boom, you got this green candle, probably somewhere over here, that's going to go shoom, and it's going to try to take out this wick high. So now anybody, I shouldn't say anybody, but if you're somebody that's looking at this as a double top, and let's say you tried this for a double top, and it starts to come in the money, and then it does this little curl, the next time it's there, you're not really thinking so much double top anymore. Which is like, I'd rather just have the conviction that this is going to trade down. Like, if I was looking at a short for this, I'd be looking at this as like a neckline break. Like, okay, here is your confirmed higher low is what you're trying to say. But you don't see me on a name like uh what's an example? This one really isn't the greatest example. But had I not tried this trend line, let's say, like had I not known this trend line was here, and I was looking at this as some sort of higher low or call this a double bottom, as soon as it takes out that neckline, that is where you'd want to take it, right? Where we look back at NVOS, where this wouldn't be where I'd have to have some sort of confirmed downtrend in right there that would say yes, this confirmed, and this would have to be dating like if you had like a bunch of trading action off of this downtrend and it kept holding it, then we could try that and say yep, double bottom is in, or in this scenario double top is in. Well, right here I wouldn't say that anything is confirmed until this sort of neckline gets discredited. It is wicking into that, so you could say, yep, double top is in, but all it's going to take is come into this green move, take out that wick top. I mean, we called this out when it was still the start of green candle number 4, our pullback candle number 4. We called it out, and we said all it's going to take is our ideal setup. We go set the flat top, we trade back in, we hold this low, and then when we take that flat top out, shoom. Just watch. It's gonna play out, and it's either gonna work against me or it's gonna work for me. And I would say that with these wicks coming into that level, testing up towards that 30, it might not even have to pull back. It might just blast through it right away. But definitely a decent setup. NVAX, giving up the ghost a little bit. Wasn't able to hold those 850s. Looking at NVAX, you can see giving up that level. Is this trend line going to be something that I can hold? It hasn't tested that neckline that we marked, which could start seeing some wicks into that, maybe some false breaks down to that 825. ATHM, just respecting the trend line, just respecting the gap. You could say, oh, well, you didn't get the wick low. It's hard to get the lows. It's hard to get the lows. But we did get a 62, which is pretty damn close. Pretty darn close. End phase kind of rejecting, setting up that double top sort of look. If the price were to ever get over top of that, I'd say a 1350 break. That's what we said from the get-go. 1350. If it gets, oh no, we said 3150s. My bad. 3150s. That's that level. If it can take out 3150s, we think we have a winner to the upside. If it wants to give this frowny face, is it going to be able to confirm some higher lows? Maybe. Just maybe. I just heard him say it on this podcast. A 1 billion barrel per day cut from Saudis. Oh, I'm not surprised. You're getting the news. The news coming in. Would you rather be in on the news for today Or would you rather just play the support level and then just hold it and you get the benefit from all the news that wants to come in? The news has a natural way. Now, I'm not going to say it's like this every time. The news has a natural way of following the price action. Price action up, news following it up. Price action down, news following it down. You kind of get what I'm saying there. This is why you won't ever see me scrolling through a news article that comes out because something's ripping. I bet if I go over to NVOS right now, there's some sort of news article that's out. Let's go take a look. I guess it's still the same news from Friday. Some sort of $70 million coupon. Okay. Okay. But that news actually really started about 21 days ago. This would have been August 15th. There's August 16th. There's August 15th right there. News will naturally follow the price action. Naturally. FVRR, I really am pretty bullish on this right here. I don't know if you're still there, Drift. But this FVRR, we've just been holding that entry that we had. We played against strength, 25 something average on the name. A beautiful, beautiful sort of setup that it's having right here. I would expect it to see some resistance in the 30, which, you know, if we look at it as a retracement from this top, you can see how that 618 or that 382 right there. You know, if it wants to come back in, we're going to start averaging up on this one probably if it pulls back into this trend line. But I like this candle that's coming in. I would expect it to leave a wick. I wouldn't expect a full push. But I really like how this FVR is setting up. Yet the fresh positive break, what makes it a fresh positive break is you enter the oversold, reject it, fresh positive break, you give up the ghost, but then you reclaim that positive. That is a beautiful setup that I would say. Invos, going back, you're still here. Good to have you still here, Drift. I'll be forever grateful for you, Drift. Even if the YouTube thing doesn't work out, I'll be forever grateful. And here we are, we're testing up to those 30 halves. 30 halves. Soundhound still right around those 20s and 50s amps. The YouTube thing will work out. I appreciate that. I think that it has a lot of potential and why we have put the time into it. And maybe it's partially on me for not having a face cam or some type of easy to see platform that, you know, I take a trade, it shows up right on my screen. I feel that's something that I really want to work to getting. But I do agree. I think it's going to work out, which is why I keep Electric Scooter Academy. I've never heard of them personally, but I'm not really searching out a lot on YouTube. There is a YouTuber that I have started watching. He's small fry. He's small fry, but he's got potential. I'm actually thinking of some sort of collab with him. I haven't pitched that to him yet, but Dustin Alm, this guy right here, Dustin Alm. I really like his videos. He's only got 66 subscribers, but I really like his videos. I sent him a bunch of tickers just to give him some content, but he does these valuations on these companies, and I think he has a lot of potential. 66 subscribers. Talk about a gem in the rough. You know, when I first subscribed to him, I think it was at 37. So he's getting a nice little. Hold on, cancel that side note right there. How about the double top? How comfy are these double top shorters sitting right now? Uh-oh. Setting up the flat top, taking the flat top out on one pullback candle. How about that? Yeah, I've been leaving replies and just feedback on his videos, just trying to, you know, build that sort of relationship of, he can get the content that he wants. He knows that when he comes out with the videos, he's got somebody that's going to give him feedback on his information, and I feel he has the mindset that is partially like me. Now he has a little bit of the trading aspect that he goes into a little bit. Uh, but in all honesty, there's some differences with what he does, which is all right. Which is all right. I respect uh, the sort of strategy that he goes about, and it's not so much really short termed. Some of the stuff that he has said that I would have been like, oh, I would take it a different perspective, and a lot of the reason for that is because the names he's trading based off of valuation, where the valuation doesn't really correlate to companies short term. Like Enphase, for example. You know, you do a valuation on Enphase, you're going to get some good numbers. The numbers that Enphase is going to put up on a valuation is great. But in the short term, all that matters is the liquidity that's entering and leaving the book. That's all that matters. So he's talking about building a long position, and he's talking about having outs underneath 120. And I simply just told him I disagree, that I think that if you break 120s, yes, you have some downside risk. But this isn't a name that I would be looking at overthinking. This isn't a name I'd want to overthink with, because I believe that the value is there. Now, what happens in the short term happens. If this were to fall to like 80 bucks, let's say, you will not hear me complain one time. I promise you that. You will not hear me say, "Oh my gosh, I started. Why did I start? Why did I buy?" No, you won't hear me say that, because when you get into these types of plays right here, where you have long-term conviction on investing, that's why before I start any stream, I say there's a difference between trading and investing. I would say Enphase is going to be a prime example of that, because the short term, I would say, DFS probably falls into that boat as well. DFS probably has some more news related headwinds that's going to have to fight through. Talk about falsely charging accounts since 2007. You talk about the CEO departure. You talk about the share buyback pauses. Okay, that's a different story. But when you're talking about a fundamentally sound company that doesn't have really, you have the interest rates that are probably eating into some of the sales. But when you look at the broad exposure internationally that this company is really pushing to get to, the space that's in is looking to grow. You're looking at the microinverters that the company has. It's one of a kind. Nobody has the microinverter chips that this company has. So you talk about the what's the right word that the term that I'm looking for? You're looking at uh, no, I'll get it. I'll get it. Competitive advantage of having the only one of something. That is something unique that adds to the valuation of not just a good balance sheet, not just good potential growth looking to the future. You're looking at having companies that have that competitive advantage that gives you that sustainability that this company is going to be around for the long term. When you find companies with competitive advantages like that, those are when it perks my ears up. Like my ears get real big, and I get maybe a little excited. So maybe when this was here in the 150s and we had that 166 average, maybe my ears were just a little bit too big, a little bit too early. I can accept that. I'm not disagreeing that, based off the chart setup, you have a consistent uh, descending channel, something sort of like this. Yes, I could have been a little bit early. But over the course of the long run, even those 166 shares average that I had here, those are, in my opinion, going to be in the money at some point in time. It's just going to take some time to work out the levels because not more liquidity isn't willing to be bought yet. That's all it comes down to in the short run. So I simply just told them that, you're going to get stopped out of this position that you're starting at 120s more than likely, and it's going to trade down, maybe into the hundreds, maybe the low hundreds, maybe even breaks underneath the hundred. Uh, well, when it comes to that time where more liquidity is willing to be bought, you're not going to have the position that you want, and before you know it, you're going to be up here in the 170s, and you're not going to want to buy it. That's kind of the point that I made to him. But no, I would recommend. He doesn't live stream. I would recommend his videos to newer people. It's a different perspective. It really dives into the financials of the company, which is right up my alley. I love looking at financials for companies. It's something that I take a lot of pride in doing, and it's something he does. Even brings different perspectives to me, so I can respect, especially a new channel that has 50 something subscribers or 60 something subscribers. It's pretty impressive. So if I was going to recommend a newer YouTuber, I would say uh, his channel is worth taking a look at. Soundhound still right around these 250s. Amps 630. NVOS really setting up this flat top now. If it didn't break out yet, you're going to be able to see we got 10 minutes left. You can see a nice candle, so probably even needing to adjust this just a little bit, but that is a candle close higher than any candle close today. Does it need to trade back in to this 29 level and then break out? That is going to be the question that we have. TGTX. Uh, Given that stair step look, anytime I see a red candle like this, I immediately think look for the selling pressure in the middle of that red candle. Not only does this red candle leave red engulfing, you can see the volume is sort of picked up a little bit on that candle as well. Matches it well with the following candle, but if it gives up this low, this 1075, I would say it's going to need to trade back in more than likely. You have this trend line. Does it need to trade back in, where I'll be very interested around this 1060. If the channel breaks to the downside, you have a gap, which is below. I don't know how 1050s would hold up, but that would be a little concerning for this position. But I still think it's possible that this can pan out and we get that true 11 break. Are these guys talking about DocuSign? What's DocuSign doing? Heyo! That's a nice move on DocuSign. I'm very intrigued with how this position could pan out. It is the earnings play for me on Thursday, but a nice fresh positive break. I think that's good enough to move the DocuSign up into this range right in here. If I was going to adjust anything back down, I would say PWM can be moved down. GFAI, I really think we missed the boat on this. But maybe it can trade sideways a little bit. Man, we would have had a beautiful entry on this GFAI. Uh-oh. I see NVOS. Really flirting with this breakout. Not much volume coming into this. A nice move higher though.
Nice consolidation period. PBR. Let's take a look. Man, oil is just looking so good. It's not even funny how good some of these oils look. I mean, how do you draw up a better setup than this little flat top? It's got a flat top gap at 15 too. It could print there today. I mean, the amount of dividends that this company's paying out as well, just getting paid. Silica, man, really should have tried that 1260. Really could have tried that 1260. MRO, continuing the print higher. You want to take a gamble? Take a gamble where we punch it? Ah, God. Golly, OG. Good golly, OG. Good golly, OG. Path, really regret not trying this. It was really hard with that red engulfing candle, the downside. We really were thinking about that 1450. Would have been a nice move. We would be having outs into that. IBM, nice print. We had to exit on the IBM, unfortunately. Really good entries on IBM though. We had a 124. MRO, is this going to be something that can pan out? Nice turn to the upside. Look at that weekly move. You can see still in the middle of that weekly move. How's ZI looking? Thank God it's down. ZI is a new one that we're really getting close to. When I see these tight channels like this on fundamental companies, FVR really on a nice pump here. You can see that bull flag consolidation, a tight channel right to the level. These are beautiful setups. Beautiful setups. Discredits it, you know, on the 29 break. If you waited for the wick tops, still 1.5%. If you were somebody looking for, you had big size on that. I mean, that's a good look. It's a good look, and I'd say you can probably keep holding it. Nice consolidation period happening on Soundhound. Pins. Nice churn on pins. Let's look at some of the top losers on the day. Tags. I can't believe this is still at 9. What about Bros? What's Bros up to? Mmm. Bros, interesting. Uh, Other than this, though, guys, I think this is going to call it. But bros, a very interesting look where that gap and those lows meet up. 28. You could say that this probably has some sort of trend line dating back over this way as well. But all it would take is a 35 break on bros, and you could see that continue. But that's going to call it for the live stream today, guys. I appreciate anybody who tuned in. Big shout out to Drift. You're the GOAT. Mr. Drift always showing out. Love the guy. But that's going to call it for the day. Appreciate anybody who tuned in, and we will see you on the next one.